Everybody around the world, welcome. It is the bottom tier. I am Greg.
I am Matt.
And today, my friends, we are joined by our super special guest, local luminary in front of the show, Marshal. Meador, what's up, man?
I did it. I'm finally on this podcast.
Yeah, it took only like 7 episodes, however long it's been now.
Several episodes, yeah, until we finally broke him down, everybody.
They did it. I had to sell my kid to get on here, but it was worth it.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Really, nothing is as good as the bottom tier as far as I'm concerned.
He'll thank me later.
Exactly.
Or not.
So, Marshall, we're going to get into some real stuff a little bit later, but I think just starting off, we'll open up with some news. How do we feel about news?
Yeah,
guys?
news. Let's talk about it. There's been a lot of crazy things happen, and Marshall, you actually lived through quite a bit of it, the news that we're going to report, so getting an insider scoop is going to be great, but hey, Prism LL'd.
Woo!
Prism's living legend. That's huge news.
Boo, depending on if you're a Prism player or not.
Actually, one of the biggest things that no one takes away from this is she's the first natural LL. When we think about Starvo, there was nothing natural about that. When we think about Chain, when he first came out, he shot straight up to the top. We had to do bands right away. So Prism is actually the first hero we can actually look at and think, how is LL supposed to go? And when we see, she had about 1.5 years of life. So is this Legend Story Studios' plan is that each hero should get maybe 1.5 years if she's really good or he's really good? So to me, that's actually one of the biggest takeaways.
And that is a really interesting sort of perspective to take it from, especially with, really the meta warping reality of Starvo. And Chain having to be smacked down pretty quick. Exactly what you were talking about, the natural progression of it. If like 1.5 years is what they were shooting for before they have to recycle like the talent and the class sort of abilities, that's a really good design for what they're looking at, right? It gives you long enough to be able to really, explore the hero a little bit while not being so long that it just hangs on beyond the point where it's welcome or it's fallen way behind the meta or something like that. It really gives you the opportunity to play it to its fullest extent, let it go off to those pastures in a dignified way, and then you move on to something else.
I mean, for sure. And I think Prism, there's a lot of people that said that Prism was unfair or whatever. I think Prism was a very fair hero. There was definitely ways to be able to get around it, in my opinion. There was maybe like a card that was like kind of crazy and warping that was cool, but I think Prism was a super fair hero. And I was very surprised. I think my most surprising thing about the Flesh of Blood community is immediately as soon as Prism was LL'd, like a majority of the people's like, let's get Briar. They just moved on to the next hero.
The next one, throw him out. We don't need him. Get rid of it.
So now Briar is apparently the boogeyman of the meta, according to them. But I don't know if that's going to be the case, because it was interesting. Like Prism was on the cusp of like 2 points away for a very long time, like a month. Like it took a while to get there, and so that was really interesting to me. Is like actually people were like, nah, Prism's not that whatever, we have this new thing going on, and so
it came right up to the line and then nudged over.
Yep. So that's my opinion on it. Pretty cool.
It is pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see that that there's not anything really in the meta right now that warps the entire thing around it, like going back to the Starvo example. Like if you weren't playing Starvo, you had to play anti-Starvo or you just lose. There's not, as far as I can tell, and you gentlemen, of course, can correct me if you think differently or if you see something that I'm missing. There's not really that sort of thing in the meta right now. Like, Fi's kind of scary, Briar's kind of scary. I think we're going to see more Guardian coming in with Prism being gone now. But no one is really, like, standing out as, the face of the meta. You know what I mean? There's no, like, crazy, like, it's this hero and all the other ones,
I think there's no pure dominant hero. I do think the Rune Blades are standing above the rest. I think we even see this from the Pro Tour. The top 4 choices were Briar. I do think, though, the biggest problem with them actually is, again, their equipment. I've always been about this. To me, their blocks are too good for the damage output they do, and I do think they naturally have an edge. Also, something that people don't think about is their equipment. If we substitute one of our own for Null Rune, that's actually a buff for them. So we're already being nerfed ourselves by playing weaker equipment while they're still block great. So I don't think there's any warping hero, but I do expect us to see a huge meta of Briar again. And I think that's why we're going to see her become the boogeyman, is because she's the easy deck. When we look at Phi, for example, when you brought him up, we only saw one Phi in the top 20 of Pro Tour 2. So after the stubby bans, which I think was a very much needed ban or a great ban, we see that he's actually where he should be. He's new user friendly, but he's still good and powerful at a nice acceptable level.
That like upper middle tier thing that you're looking for with really like most heroes, like that's the sweet spot. Like no one too dominant, fairly easy to pick up or fairly not easy to pick up, but able to slot into a particular place and just kind of chill there. Rune Blades, 100%. Rune Blades are great. Briar is going to be the next to go. I think that we can all kind of agree on that.
For sure. And I'm like, I don't think Briar's unfair either. Like, I do think it's going to be kind of, Briar going is going to be actually a very interesting thing to watch because of Rosetta Thorn going with it. Because that's how it works. So that'll be just super interesting to watch and kind of experience and not have to worry about like the 2 and 2 Arcane, which could be able to be awesome for everyone else. But hey, they'll probably make Rosetta Thorn 2 and has the 2 attacks or something. Oh, who knows? But it's cool. I like it. So what do you like with Prism LL'd? Where do you think what do you think the Prism players? Because I know there's a lot of Prism players that really like playing Prism. Where do you think they're going to move to? What's a deck that's like easily like turned into?
I think it kind of depends on how they're playing Prism. Because really, like broadly speaking, and again, please correct me because I'm I've only been in the card game
biz for a couple months.
Exactly, for not a super long time at this point. But broadly speaking, there's like 2 ways to play Prism. You can go super like Spectral Shield and Aura heavy, or you go super big, smack them in the face with your 6s and your 7 and your 8 sort of attacks. So I think we're going to see a split between people who play more of like the Aura, the Spectral Shield way, gravitating more towards like a Dromai or something like that. And then the ones who sort of just stack the big turns going more towards like Guardian or something along those lines.
I actually would say I agree with that a lot. I do think Dromai will actually be a pretty natural progression for a lot of people who really love auras. I also think Dash, actually, just the building up of items.
Oh, Dash, there you go, yeah.
I think one of the big things that will actually decide a lot is when Dynasty does come out or we start seeing card reveals, because I think that's going to push them in a lot of directions. I also hear from a lot of Prism players, they're thinking about a deck like Icelander. Now, it might seem like they're very different, but I think actually the Aura build loves to control.
Exactly.
It likes to put pressure, and it likes to, again, do things that really annoy the opponent. And to me, Icelander is that. With Prism kind of LLing, I do see her coming back strongly. I think we're going to see the Guardians come back, actually, in very strong waves. So to me, I do think we're going to see like Dromai, Icelander, Guardians. Maybe that's too many heroes to, pick from to say they're going to be playing all of them. But I really do feel like that's kind of their bread and butter once Prism goes.
I think what you guys said is pretty cool and accurate. I was gonna say like I do think Dromai is a good illusionist and good to go there, but you mentioned Dynasty. Like I know this is coming out Friday. All right, I know this podcast is coming out Friday, and you all are seeing the Dynasty news, and we really pushed the limit to try to get Dynasty news in here.
It's 7:30 p.m. here
Thursday
in
night,
Central Arizona,
and so we missed it. So we apologize for Dynasty, but hey, congrats! You're going to hear us talk all about it next week, so make sure you stay tuned for that. We're going to talk for a week straight. You ready for that, Marshall?
Oh yeah,
yeah. Just kidding. That'd be great. So yeah, that's great. Prisms LL'd. We have the national championship in the United States, kind of starting September 23rd to the 25th in Charlotte, North Carolina. But you're going to be able to watch kind of the new meta unfold on the 11th, which is really exciting for news. And then you got to experience one of the reasons, Marshall, that we invited you on the show was he just did an awesome Lexi deck tech for us, which had a lot of cool experiences happening during the middle of it. But also, you participated in the Pro Tour in Lille. Is that how you say it? You were there.
I believe so.
Lille, perfect, awesome.
Lille, the first time. Proud of you.
So you first got to see firsthand the new hero reveal from Dynasty, the Emperor.
Yes, the first.
James
White came out. He was excited. I thought to myself, this is going to be a young hero. Everyone said, I don't know about that. And much did I know, it was a young hero.
Surprise! It's a Blitz hero.
Surprise! I think what most people tend to forget with these expansion sets is the majority of the heroes are young. When we look at Crucible, they were all young. When we look at Everfest, we had Valda, we had Genus, we had the other one. There we go. Oh, I'm sorry, Icelander.
Icelander wasn't there. Yep, Valda, Genus, Icelander.
But those are the three we had. We had Starvo. So Starvo to me was the outlier. I do think we're going to continue this kind of thing they're building up, which is we're going to probably get one adult hero. But to me, yeah, the Emperor was obviously going to probably be young, especially this early of a reveal. I think the most interesting thing, again, is obviously he is a wizard, but he's also a warrior. So the first dual class, if you will.
The hybrid, yeah.
I agree with a lot of people. I think we need to see his weapon. But I don't believe the Emperor whatsoever is meant to be a serious blitz hero. I believe with his 15 words at the bottom of his card, he's meant to be fun, ridiculous, and have one person build a deck that somehow is really good.
I like we were talking about deck techs a little bit earlier, which is a video soon too, but we were talking about it, and I do think there's like a lot of viable things you could do, especially with like Flamescale Furnace in that deck, which is pretty exciting. Like if you put that with the Emperor, you're gonna have some cool stuff. So I do think the Emperor is gonna actually like get some LL points, like not be at the bottom, but it will still kind of be that like fun deck that you're talking about.
He's not going to show up and immediately jump to the top of the list or anything, but I think he is going to have a very specific niche, and that niche is going to be screwing with people who did not think through what he could do and just get smacked in the face with a Command and Conquer at the end of every turn.
So actually the biggest thing I didn't think about, I don't know if it was revealed if he's a majestic or a rare or just whatever.
Rarity was not shown off. The only thing we've seen is the promo stuff.
But that's what so for me, I'm thinking if he was actually in Commoner, now that would probably be the most fun deck I can think about building.
That'd be crazy.
That would be crazy fun. Now
you just couldn't use his ability to its fullest with Command and Conquer.
Unless
I don't even care about that. I'm gonna put all the wizards.
All right.
I'm gonna put all the my
hot
God.
take, $5 on the table. American greenbacks. They're
Never heard that before.
They're reprinting Command and Conquer. They're going to make it a common.
Well, I half agree with that.
I think they'll reprint it.
One day they will reprint the card. No, I do believe it will probably be in Dynasty. I believe that's actually maybe the biggest thing they're trying to hint at. I do think LSS loves hinting at things and kind of showing it off.
Oh, they are huge fans of the Easter egg and the little breadcrumb.
The Emperor is the guy on the cover of CNC.
No.
Oh, for sure.
It's a different guy.
I mean, they look similar to me.
He offered you 5 greenbacks. I'll offer you 5 didgeridoos. That's Australian money, of course. But
the dollary-doos.
Dollary-doos. There we go. Yeah.
I've seen The Simpsons.
Fair enough. Cool. Well, new hero. I'm excited. It's gonna be cheeky. Gonna be weird.
Cheeky and weird is the best. Cheeky and weird is where the fun's
I
at.
thought it was fake when I first saw it because of all those names. So perfect. It's the perfect card.
I'm quietly waiting for the Baker class or something. Like the
that comes
merchants.
out next.
Yeah, it's gonna be
guys, stop spoiling it.
Yeah, the next set's gonna feature Cheech and Chong. You know,
guys, I didn't want to
better.
say,
No lie, it better.
But bottom tier has an exclusive card for Dynasty. It's the Baker class.
It's so good, guys.
Yeah, we're there, guys. We got the exclusive.
It's weapons stiff bread.
James White himself loves our podcast and our content so much that he flew out here to hand deliver these promo cards to us.
Personally told me in France. He said it's the best podcast.
Oh, wow.
You heard it right here,
Look
folks.
at that. Yeah, cool. We'll have a reveal, and I just hope that it just stays to our brand as if we ever get one, James White, if you ever hear this podcast, make sure it's the worst card you've ever made.
Literally, don't even do art. 0 damage, 9 cost, a stick figure as the art.
That's
let's
to say
go.
he can personally draw it.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go. We love that card. That'd be great. They'll probably sell for a lot of money. No, I'm just kidding.
We can get it framed and pass it down to our grandchildren.
With that, we've touched on it quite a bit, and it's one of the reasons, Marshal, you're on the podcast, but you're also here because you're a great friend and an icon of the community.
And we love having you just around. You have good energy. It's just great to talk with you.
Absolutely. And also, AKA kind of like my rival. Every time I verse you, I always try to win, and I never do, so it's great. It is Pro Tour Lille is over. We saw what happened. We saw the calling. We saw that there are 4 Briars at the end, and you participated in it. You were ranked 41st.
41st, everybody. Stop and think about that for a second. How many people were there, guys?
42. No, I'm just kidding.
There was 43. I don't want anyone to believe that 42 number. Okay.
It's fake news.
No, you were placed 41st out of, what? It was 300, 350?
I was going to say, I believe the number was about 360 is from what I heard. I thought one other time I heard around 380. But yeah, it was around that number, about 350-360 is what we'll say.
Yeah. So like, what was your experience like? Like, what you went there repping Lexi and did really, really well. Like, what was your experience? Kind of like, what was the matches like, and how do you feel it is like? I know America has a different meta than Europe. You got to experience the Europe meta and how people played. Like, how was the whole thing?
So the whole thing, I would say, it was great. I actually thought one of the things that impressed me most is how the event was ran. I personally thought it was actually super well done. I thought all the judges were really on it. So to me, that was actually wonderful. For the event, of course, there was 2 formats. There was draft on both days. There was CC on both days. Of course, there was a third day, but that's only for top 8. So obviously very exclusive, and that was all CC. I think the biggest takeaway for me wasn't CC, because to me, even though America might have a different meta, you kind of know what to expect. You have an idea, and there's only so much you can do to innovate on certain decks. So to me, like when you play a Viserai, when you play a Briar, yeah, there might be 6 cards that are a little bit different, but for the most part, you like
basically know what they're going to bring.
Channel Mount Heroic, got it.
Yeah.
Viserai, got it. You're gonna do more.
Oh, cool! 97 rune chance, delightful.
Exactly. Prism. Wait, you play auras? No. So again, you kind of expect these things. I think the biggest thing for me was draft. That was the format I did worst in. But the ideas or the things you're thinking about, like, what kind of works in my area? What do people normally do? For example, again, we're all from Arizona. Something that I often see is maybe Oasis Respites. They stick around a little bit longer. Equipment, a lot of ninja equipment gets taken quickly, but other ones, they may be the quilling equipment. Again, you have a few more turns. So for the Pro Tour, really seeing what people, again, value the most is different. And when you're trying to plan for, maybe I'll get this in 2 turns and get a little extra value, when it doesn't come back around, you start going, oh, okay, I'm in a worse spot. And you maybe try to, go towards that and work with it. But for Uprising Draft, in my opinion, it's really tough to come back from that stuff. It's a type of draft where I feel like you have to make your decision right away, and that can really lead to tough things. Especially, too, when, in my opinion, you just get a bad matchup. You can have the best Fi deck in the world, but if you play the best Icelander deck in the world, and they go first, well, in my opinion, you're
congratulations. Here's 9 Frostbites, and I'm threatening 5 Arcane next turn.
Yeah.
Exactly. And even if you have, again, such a great deck, if this is the one time you draw all your blues as 5, the one time, and the Icelander goes, wow, I just got this great hand. So to me, that was really interesting to kind of see play out what people favor and see the decks that win. To me, the one thing I found interesting, it did seem like Dromai was underrepresented, and it seems like, again, a lot of people were kind of light on her. So Fi and Icelander were the 2 decks that people always seem to be drawn to most.
Well, it seems to me that Dromai is kind of tricky in draft, because like if you don't pull your dragons, you're kind of out of luck. If you don't pull the support that you need for it, you're kind of out of luck. Whereas with like Fi or Icelander, as long as you get the blue wizard actions, you're doing okay. And as long as you get a lot of the draconic chains and stuff, you're doing okay for Fi. But Dromai seems just a lot more particular than either of the other 2 heroes in the set.
I agree, and I also think people have just practiced on her the least. And I think, again, like when you go to a big tournament like this, a lot of people I feel are going to play the things that are like comfort champions to them. To me, I think that's why Fi is so favorited, is because to me, anybody can understand it. In fact, I think Fi is one of the best heroes for teaching a new player.
Yeah.
So to me, when you say,
straightforward.
hey, if you're going to face another Fi, you're going to have a good deck, are you going to feel comfortable? Yes. Now, if I say, hey, you're going to play Icelander, you're going to have a great deck, you're going to face a great Dromai, you're going to start going, oh, no, you're going to start getting worried. I think even, it might sound funny, but as a Fi player, even against an Icelander, even if you're worried, you kind of go, I can win. I can do this. When you start having terrible matchups, though, exactly. I'm going to go first. I'm going to go red, 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 red. 15 blaze headlongs. They're going to die.
Piece of cake, 1 turn.
For sure. Like I noticed that for sure in our local draft is just Dromai is trickier to be able to play and has a tougher time. So it makes sense that people kind of go away from it as a hero. And Fi is always like the favorite pick. Like there's always 4 to like 2-2 or 4 to even, or 4 or 5 to even like 1-2, and Fi's usually end up on top typically. What was your hero that you ended up drafting both times?
So for me, again, I did kind of go with the comfort pick, but I also feel very good. I did go with 5 both times. To me, for I would say most of our local drafts, I often do feel like I go 2-1, 3-0 on 5. So my plan going into Pro Tour Lille was I was thinking, you know what? If I go 2-1 on both drafts, I'll be very happy, because to me, I feel very good with my CC deck and Lexi. So I thought, if I go 2-1, 2-1, lose 2 matches, I'm happy. And I know a lot of people might say, no, you got to go for 3-0. But to me, I want to play my odds. So I went with 5 both times.
Nice. And so what did you end up, at the end of the tournament, what was your total score, I guess?
So my total score was 9-5. For draft, I went... I had 4 losses. I had 2 wins. So for, again, draft, didn't do good, I would say, whatsoever, to be honest. For CC, I went 7-1. So I played 8 rounds. I lost my very last match with Lexi against a very good Oldham player. But again, these things happen.
But still, I mean, 7-1 is a great record. Like, that's phenomenal.
Oh, definitely. I played a variety of heroes for Lexi. I played against 2 Bravos, 2 Prisms, 2 Briars, a Phi, and an Oldham. Again, I would say for Prism, most Prism players expect to destroy you. But as with some of the deck tech we showed off a little bit earlier, one of the cards I find super helpful and just lets me win against Prism is Time Skippers. Against Bravo, I find it a even matchup. But one of the cards that I defeated both Bravos with, and they both did not understand, was Red Electrify. Again, the buffs and just presenting all this damage, people can't always handle it. And once you start stripping a hero of their equipment, in my opinion, Lexi becomes such an easy deck to overwhelm somebody with.
That's awesome. I just remember being over here just rooting for you, hoping maybe we'd see you on stream or anything like that. So we're just stoked that you were able to get so far and have you over there.
Super thrilled. And to be repping the Central Arizona scene and everything, like, kudos to you, man. Like, it's tough to get into these things, like, by design. And then especially, nobody ever thinks like, oh, those Phoenix, Arizona players, like, what a good group of players.
Yeah, like playing, I would say, I've played pretty much right before Monarch came out. And again, I've been I would say, a very serious player since then. I went to like the first Las Vegas Calling in the States, which was the first big event for almost everyone. I think everybody in the region, right, they kind of feel like, oh, I have a good one. But I do feel like for Phoenix, again, we've been growing, not hugely, but pretty steadily. And I just feel like we do have a number of dedicated players. Again, one of the big names that most people would know from our region is Alex Vore, who plays Kano. Again, he got top 8 during the first Pro Tour, won the second Las Vegas Calling. So, not just to go off of him, again, we have many great players who, again, I think a lot of us would respect. We realize they're great. And to me, again, we're just dedicated. And I feel like we have a really good, positive community for the most part, We're happy to help each other. We're excited. And to me, I think that's what Flesh and Blood does better than most other card games.
Yeah.
We want to see you. We want to give you stuff. We want to help you. We want to tell you how you can get better and play. It's a horribly tough game. And I mean that in a positive way. But you got to lose for a while. And I feel like we try to put so much positivity into the game to try to counterbalance that.
Oh, for sure. I 100% agree. Like, coming off of I think it's like 2, maybe 3 months now, I'm just coming out to local armories and stuff and consistently losing. Like, I now finally feel like I have a pretty good grasp of the game and understanding, like, if I play this, like, this is making them think like this, and this is like, its strategy is finally like coming and understanding. So you're right. Like, I think like through a lot of the steeples of like you and other people in our community, you've been really able to push that positivity to kind of stick with it and go forward. So thanks for that.
100%. And like, really, it's especially with a game like this that has that competitive sort of thing built into it. Having people who will sit across the table from you and go like, hey, that was a really great game, man. That was really well played. Hey, can I give you some advice? Or, hey, could you show me what you were trying to do with this setup? Or something like that. And just really be engaged in not just the game that happens, but then in you as a player and like as what you're trying to work out with your deck. Like, that's special and that's rare.
Mm-hmm.
I've played some other TCGs in my time. I was big into like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic back in the day. And that sort of attitude, as far as what I've experienced, doesn't really exist in a lot of other games. And because, especially like you mentioned, Marshall, this is a tough game to pick up. Like, there's definitely a curve to learn how to play and then to get good at it. Having that sort of positive reinforcement, and then being able to sort of play into that yourself and like give back a little bit to the community in that way, like that's huge. That's really, honestly, like one of the biggest things that drew me to this game once I started getting really into it. Was just that all the other people around me who were playing it were all just really cool people, and they were here to have a good time and be competitive on top of that, but mostly just to enjoy playing a card game together.
Definitely, and that's how I feel about it. Again, when I think for at least our community, I can't speak for everyone, a lot of us are in our 20s, maybe even early 30s. And to me, we're all adults. A lot of us have family, we have jobs, a chunk of us have kids, right? Like, we have busy, full lives, and I think we understand that, and we can respect that. I mean, I've had a long history of trading card games. I played Yu-Gi-Oh! When I was young. I played Magic for a lot of years. And, like, for me, it's funny, because this is the only card game I know where we don't fire Saturdays and Sundays. And it's because we're clearly all doing stuff. But we'll all take a time on a Monday or a Wednesday or a Friday, or,
Get together for a couple of hours.
Exactly, to get together, enjoy it, and talk. I'll be honest, I play Flesh and Blood more than anything for the people. If I didn't enjoy this community, I wouldn't play the game. And when we were talking about, like, losing, what I would say for, like, any new players or anyone listening to this, again, I went 7-on-1 in Lille on my constructed deck. The first month I played Flesh and Blood, I did not win a game. And I do not mean I won one, I mean I won 0 games. I enjoyed almost every person I played against, and I was learning and getting better. And again, I came from Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic and other card games, and I've played everything, but I could not win a game for a whole... I got my face kicked in so many times, and everyone was so nice, and I went, you know what? I'm having a ball. And then I finally remember when I won my first game, and I went, yes!
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
That memory will be with you forever.
Exactly.
For sure. Well, I have another question here for you. A question about a question.
Ooh.
We saw that you were asking a question to good old James White while you're there at Pro Tour
The
Lille.
man, the myth, the legend.
What did you ask?
So what I asked to him was what LSS is kind of doing to try to help new players. I think one of the biggest problems with Flesh and Blood, as we were talking about a little bit, is that the game is super competitive. So I think one of the tough things is that when you join the game, even if you do want to get a lot better, you're facing someone of, say, maybe a year, 2 years of experience. If you're in New Zealand, 3 years of experience. How do you compete at that level? Again, for me, I've spent, again, playing Lexi. I've played her when she first came out. I honestly don't feel I'm going to, have a hard time playing against any other Lexi player if they just started. Why? Because I know this in and out. And I know you could say that's for any other game, but to me, I do feel like every single decision of Flesh and Blood matters. And when you have people, again, who know how to get that 0.5 value out of this whole, card game, I'm saying this poorly, but out of this whole, play set, I'm going to play this card here, I'm going to maximize this, I'm going to value this, even when the games are close, because I see a lot of new players. They start, it takes a week, they learn the game pretty good. I'm like, wow, you know how to play this game. 2 weeks go by, you really know your deck. After a month, wow, you can play really well. But when I see them go up against, the veterans, there's a wide gap. and it's like, unless they're going to literally spend hours and hours and hours and just, this is my deck, I'm going to play this, I'm going to learn up every matchup, there's still this wide margin. So to kind of go back, what I asked him was, how can we help onboard new players? How can we make this group and this environment friendly for people so they want to play? Again, James, he kind of said what he said in the past. We're making PvE. We're trying to help grow the game. We're trying to, help reach out with things like classic battles, which I do think is a decent start. But I do think we need to move the game somewhat in an environment where there isn't an event every month. Again, me being a very competitive player, this is how I can feel. We go from a skirmish into a pro quest, into a pro tour, into nationals, into worlds, and I go, I love this game. I play it all the time. I need a break, guys. Like, give me a moment.
I mean, I see that too. Like being someone who's like, oh, I want to go to a Pro Tour. I want to go to a Nationals. And like, oh, I'm gonna go to the next one. Oh, it's like, there's one right now. Like I'm gonna miss it. And then you kind of get like the, FOMO, fear of missing out, and worry that you're not going to go to the next one. But it is kind of daunting in that aspect for sure. So, I mean, I think our community's doing pretty well. Like, you've helped, and we've helped start like Commoner and stuff like that, which I think is the best like barrier to entry. Like, that's what helped me learn the game the fastest. I would
100%.
say is you learn the basics of each hero by playing Commoner, and then you're able to kind of get better. But there's something I really when you were speaking, like, you're right. Like, as a new player versus like someone who's been playing for a longer time, the only thing that like really kept me going for a long time before I started getting a couple wins is like, I remember versing you specifically. Like, I was versing Lexi with Phi, and it was like, you beat me and you had 20 health. I was like, cool. That's rad. Love it.
So you can get that good.
Yeah. So he was like, he had 20, I had 20 health, or he had 20 health, I had 0. And then I played again and I was at 10. And I was like, I halved it. That's pretty cool. And then it was 5, and then like we eventually had one where it was like 1v1, and I was like, man, Marshal went easy out. like it's just like the thing of like the progression of doing that. You can tell your skills increase against the bigger players, and that's just because you've been so open on all that stuff. So, but yeah, I don't know where I was going with that tangent, but I really like doing it.
But it's totally cool. We're here to talk. We're here to have a good time. But like really, like it is a complicated game. It is a tough game to. Not to pick up necessarily, because you can get the basics very quickly, but to gain any sort of mastery over, there's a lot of moving parts. You have to keep a lot of stuff in mind. You have to really strategize about what you're going to do, not just in terms of your own deck, but in terms of the matchups as well. So it's relatively easy to pick up, but then to actually like learn deeply, it takes some time. So yeah, you're going to lose a lot. It's just, it's how you learn. It's how you get used to things and how they work. It's going to take a little bit of time to sort of get your feet under you. And, when you are getting into it and you're just playing somebody else, like kitchen table style play, you can misplay, you can mess around with some of the deck builds and things like that. And you can still do pretty well. You can get it down to like a 5-1 sort of thing. But when you come into something that is more competitive, that is playing at that higher level, like a single misplay at high level play can obliterate your chances. If you misplay a defense reaction, if you pitch the wrong thing, if you fire this arrow instead of this other arrow, you can completely stall yourself out, and that costs you the game. So really, like, understanding that and understanding the decks and how they all work to that degree, that takes time. Simple fact. You didn't win a game for a whole month, and then you won a game, and then and from there, I'll bet money. He hasn't talked about this or anything, guys. This is not a fix. We don't have anything in on this. I'm just riffing right now. I would bet that once you got that first win, you quickly started to get a higher and higher proportion of wins after that, because you knew the deck, you knew the matchups, you knew what you were going into, and could now say to yourself, when Bravo plays this, I have to do this in order to prevent him from doing this, so that next turn I can do this. And just like with chess or something like that, thinking 2, 3, 4 steps ahead is necessary, but it's a hard skill to master.
100%. And again, that's the thing is, as you were kind of saying, Matt, is like I lost with the opponent at 20 health, and then I got him to 10. And again, for this game, I think you can, again, really see the results quickly, especially if you start understanding your cards. So again, I remember the first game I literally played. I opened a box. I got a legendary. I said, I'm not going to bring this. They might think I know what I'm doing if I bring this legendary.
It's worth some money. I'm just going to stick it in a box and leave it there.
I thought, you know what? I'm just going to bring some common stuff.
What was the legendary, by the way?
It was the Warrior Boots from Monarch. I opened a whole box.
Oh, nice.
And I was just looking at Flesh and Blood. I was getting interested in it. And then when Monarch first released, I was like,
so good. I love Monarch.
I'll get a box. And I'm blanking on the name of the boots. But
it wasn't the... Oh, never mind. I have no idea. I was going to say Brave Forge Bracers, but that's the wrong thing.
No, those are the gloves.
Yeah.
But Valiant Dynamos. There you
go. Yep.
But we opened those, and I went... and I'm going to add Magic experience, Yu-Gi-Oh experience. I started putting a lot of Opt cards in my deck because I thought, you know what Opt is? It's so good in Magic. I thought this card, like...
I get to stack my deck. I get to organize my library for my polls.
So I started putting those cards in. I started putting Ravenous Ravels, which isn't a bad card. But for Dorinthia, which was the first deck I picked up, I started putting all these cards in. I remember the couple of guys around me, they're like, can I look at your deck? And I was like, sure, please do so. And they're like, yeah, see all of this? It goes against everything Dorinthia is doing. And I went, that makes sense. So after, again, the second time I went to an event, my deck had to be like 90% better just because I started to understand the basics. I would say, though, to anyone interested in Flesh and Blood, or even if you're just new playing, just get out there, play games, ask people, work with them, maybe ask to borrow a deck. Again, one of the best things I feel about our community is we all got extras a lot of times, at least I do. I like to bring them. I want people to play. I would also say if you're starting with the game, try Warrior, try Dorinthia. I'd highly recommend it. She's going to be awesome this next season, and everything's awesome.
You got a look in your eye, like,
right? Yeah. Dorinthia is going to be fire, guys. Again, she did great in the Pro Tour. She's coming back.
I feel like for starting out, like Dory or Bravo is kind of the way that you should go, just to like get a base understanding of how the game works and like the mechanics involved, and then how to like use hero abilities and how that sort of dictates how the deck works and things. I feel like those two are probably like the best way to start.
And
out.
Fi, like I think Fi,
Fi
is so beginner.
Like Ninja in general is a very beginner accessible class.
I would say Fi.
I think the first 4 heroes are actually wonderful. I think any one of them. I think Welcome to Wraith is one of the best sets I've ever seen designed for a card game. But I think if you do want to try a hero with like a class, right, or I'm blanking on what, the ability, but I'm saying for me, a Draconic Ninja, Fi is the best hero to understand what that adds. To me, Tales of Aria, the heroes are very complicated. It's funny because I personally feel like most of the new players I see and talk to, they want to start with the most hardcore heroes. They want to start with Oldhim.
Or Briar,
And they want to start... Even with Briar, there's a lot of things to remember. I see a lot of people say, I want to do Lexi. I go, I love Lexi.
But you really don't want to start with her, man.
I highly recommend against it. To me, you want to start with a hero that gives you good blocks. Why? Because you have more opportunities to make the game go longer. You have more opportunities to learn blocks. And the moment you get that down, you can play almost anybody. But if you're making bad decisions on when to block, that's how you lose games. Flesh and Blood is all about momentum. The moment you lose it, it sometimes can be so hard to get it back that it just feels frustrating. So
there you go.
Just keep it simple to start, everybody. That's a bottom tier top tip.
Bottom tier top tip. Yeah, I agree. Like you definitely have to like learn. And my first year was Bolton, and so I think Warrior was great because it really teaches you the attack reactions too, and kind of the unexpected, like learning that mechanic in itself, because like Yu-Gi-Oh, you're just like there and then it goes like I don't know, I haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh in a long time.
Yu-Gi-Oh is deeply complicated.
Okay, cool. So like you put a monster on and attacks, like you put your attack card out, your weapon attack, you attack, and then you have an attack reaction. It helped me learn that phase a lot.
That's old
easier.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
Nah.
Not anymore, yeah.
You play a card and then you say, can you stop this card? And they go, I hope to God. And if
no, I
can't.
can't.
You win.
Okay, well,
Okay,
I'm going to do
cool.
97 other things, and that's an OTK, my friend.
Exactly.
That's cool. Well, Marshall, we do have a segment that comes every single time we have our podcast, and it's one of our favorite segments. We call it Lessons Learned.
Lessons learned, everybody.
Yeah, it's our favorite. What this section is pretty much we talk about how we played Flesh and Blood this last week and what was the valuable lesson we learned so that we can get better as players. So we can go from the bottom to the top, and now we're here. I don't know. It's a song, right? So what was your lesson learned over these past few weeks of playing Flesh and Blood?
I would say one of the biggest lessons I feel for anything, including Flesh and Blood, there's always something new to learn. I personally feel the biggest thing people do with Flesh and Blood is they take the meta deck, they go, the deck's perfect. The deck is 100% the way it is. You cannot make changes, or if you do, it's going to be one card. Again, the deck I was playing for the Pro Tour was Lexi. Again, everyone told me, Prism beats you. This is why you can't play it. One of the most famous players, Yuki Lee Bender, she wasn't playing Lexi this weekend for either event, the Pro Tour or the Calling. And I believe, again, it was this mentality of the deck loses. To me, though, I feel like I've lost more games than a lot of people have won on their favorite heroes. And after losing so many games, I can tell you exactly what the downside is of my hero. I can tell you every single card in my deck. I can explain it to you. And to me literally like kind of hitting my head against the wall has given me the best wins. Because I go, no, I know what to do. I know what to learn. Even the deck I made for Pro Tour, I'm going to have to change it. Why? Because we're about to get a new meta. And guess what? I'm sure after Briar LLs, I'm going to have to change it again. I mean, one of the reasons I love Lexi is she's going to stick around for a while. But my point is, it's always evolving. Again, Briar, when she first started off, she's Cheerios. No one played Channel Mount Heroic. The bannings happen, or the erratas, I should say. Now Channel Mount Heroic's the card. When, again, we look at a lot of the decks, most of them have changed. There's ebbs and flows. Never expect a deck to remain the same. So to me, it's like pick something you love, pick something you can grow on, and really think about what you can do maybe to set yourself apart. Flesh and Blood, you'll get some of your biggest wins from confusing your opponent. If we're all playing the same deck and I have one different card than everyone else, I'm gonna make them think an extra 30 seconds. And if that 30 seconds makes them misthink or miscalculate, well, I have an advantage.
I like that. Greg,
Good.
How about you, Greg? Lessons learned.
The biggest thing for me this last week has been really thinking about the deck itself. Like we've been playing a lot of Commoner. I've been putting together a new CC deck, and in kind of doing both of those things, it's really forced me to slow down and actually look at the composition of the deck beyond just like, am I running enough blues for this Guardian, or do I have enough, zero costs for this Rune Blade or something like that? Not just figuring out whether or not mechanically can you pull something off, but is what you're pulling off actually going to be the most efficient use of these cards? And if not, can you sub something else in to sort of bring those along a little bit? Sort of on this, odyssey I've had of figuring out who my new CC hero is, which, guys, if you haven't been keeping up with these episodes, like, please keep up with these episodes. I feel like this is like the 40th time I've plugged it using this exact same setup.
Yeah.
So please, somebody pay attention. So working through that, it's really, been sort of that next step along learning the game really deeply, like we were talking about a few minutes ago. Going from I am very in this place. I'm sort of complacent, and going from that sort of complacency to something that's a little bit deeper, a little bit wider, a little bit more in depth has been just a really fascinating process, and it's helped my understanding of the game to the point where I'm starting to feel pretty good about things. Still losing a lot, like all the time. Like I get my butt kicked frequently, but I still have a good time doing it. And each time I lose, I'm picking up another little piece, so that when the time comes when I really break out, I feel like it's going to be a really powerful breakout, and it's just going to be like I will have found my place. So the lesson that I've learned really is to slow down a little bit. Think about the deck and think about the matchups and see what you can leverage out of it. And if something's not working, make that change.
Yeah. Are we going to get a hero reveal real fast of who you're working on, or are you going to save it for another time?
Do we want to do that? Like,
it's up to you.
Okay. I've played around a little bit. I've decided I'm going with Oldhim, everybody. I've almost got it complete. I've got like 4 or 5 more of the Majestics I need to pick up. Another Oak and Old, a couple of things like that.
A meta pick, clearly, guys.
Oh, yeah, obviously. Because, here at the bottom tier, we're all about that meta.
Oh, yeah.
100%. But no, honestly, it's a fairly orthodox Oldhim deck I'm putting together. As time goes on, as I get more familiar with it and more comfortable, it'll start taking on its own flavor. But, it's, Spinal Crush.
Is it true that I heard you're running 16 pummels?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
An absolutely illegal amount of pummels.
That's actually the card we were given by Legend Studios was Pummel 2.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's
almost 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Exactly.
I remember seeing that on your...
Pummel 2.
2 pummels in one card.
Yeah.
It's kind of nuts. I feel like it's going to be a big shakeup. You heard it here first, folks. Double pummel.
Awesome. For me, my lesson learned, funny enough, the last time I played a new Dramai deck that I made that was for CC. And I'm used to playing Fi, and I was just like, I'm just going to try it out. I don't really know. Like, I understand how to play Dromai at a fundamental level. And then I won 3 of the games and lost 1. And I was like,
Okay, cool.
I was like, I need to learn what these cards mean. And that's my lessons learned. Like, I was like, oh, like, I'm just summoning this dragon. And then it was like, oh, this dragon actually helps me here. Like, it doesn't have Phantasm. You can't pop it. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah. And so it was kind of cool to be like, now I need to know, like I never got to summon, like, a big dragon. Like, there's the big dragons, but I never got to summon,
The
like,
majestic ones.
the majestic ones. And I was like,
or Dracona.
I don't really think they're
Optima,
worth summoning, in my opinion, but, like, I need to figure out, like, why they're in my deck for the first, like, they do big things, but I just never had a circumstance that I, like, had to summon them or
like
anything. And
that for Dromai, and to get off on a little bit of a tangent, I'm sorry to steal your lessons learned from you.
No, it was
but like for Dromai, it's really situational, right? Like what dragons you want to run.
Yeah.
Like Dominia, great card, but very expensive in a deck that runs mostly reds. Like,
oh, for sure.
Finding
100%.
that 4 resource, like that's tricky. So it's really like it's a cost for value thing, right? And like working out where that is for you in your Dromai flavor, like that seems like the trickiest part of that hero.
Yeah, it was tricky, but like the thing that would surprise me, like, is like I was 3-1, but like the one that I lost was like very close. I realized that Katsu is like a super hard counter Dromai because they get all those on-hit effects, but we were really close. We were 1-1, and I was gonna, if he didn't pull it off there, it was like, it was mine, right? Because I was doing arcane damage and they were out, all that type of stuff. But with the other decks I versed, which was Icelander, which is like obviously like with all the dragons, you're able to counter that pretty well. A Briar, and I forget, there was like another one in there that I forgot about. Like I had like 10 to like 20 points on them, and I was like, man, Dromai's either like people were not prepped to verse Dromai, which could be a possibility, or like I was accidentally playing well. Like I wasn't like in my right mindset. So
probably a little bit of both.
Maybe, for sure. So my lesson learned was like I need to know now, like I need to understand, because I just took a list and did it. I need to like learn a more understanding of like why these cards were so offensive and like great against it. And so my lesson learned is just kind of to learn, I guess, is what it was. Is
the lesson is to learn.
The lesson is to learn.
You need to learn a lesson.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, guys, this is getting close to the end of our podcast, but Marshall, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, man, we really appreciate having you down here. We had a heck of a good time, I feel like. And hopefully we'll get you back down here again soon.
Oh, definitely. I had a great time. I was happy to be on here and be able to talk to you guys about Flesh and Blood. Again, to me, it's nothing without the community. So being here is a great honor, guys.
Of course. Thanks, man. Is there anything you want to plug? Anything you want people to go to? Or anything like that?
If you have any shout outs, if you have any, social media you want people to follow on, charities you like, just general messages.
I'll plug my PayPal. It's not good.
Join the Patreon, everybody.
All I would say is for Flesh and Blood, play what you like. Again, don't try to just go, I'm going to go meta. Again, there's every hero is unique. To me, some of the hardest matches I've ever faced has been considered some of the worst heroes. As a Lexi player, Azalea every time scares me. I don't lose, but she scares me. Levia, I know a player named Scott who plays her, and my gosh, I rip my hair out like crazy playing it. So my point is if you enjoy the game, stick in there. If you enjoy the people, it's going to become easier and more fun, and just play what you enjoy. Again, they'll tell you that this doesn't work, but trust me, if you think about it hard enough, it'll eventually work.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. I am Greg.
I'm Matt.
And we are the Bottom Tier, my friends. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time.